All right, time to cash out, breakdown. And what we're going to do here is just kind of like break down the track, check out the arrangement. The point of these is to do like what I call a hook and lift map, or sometimes a macro map. We just map out the big things of the track. Producers can get so zoomed in and bogged down by the details, they just kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. And that's kind of the point of these videos and like these exercises. Like notice I'm actually going through and doing this, and I highly recommend you do this too, because just seeing how the big things develop over time is really critical. Because if you think about it, like the listener, like the people in the club, they can only really hear the hook, like some kind of melody, and then everything else, you know? And so as much as we want to dive into the details, sometimes it's really helpful to just zoom all the way out and just look at a track from almost the point of view of the listener. Like, what are they really listening to? And so what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of break down like the way that the groove and the hooks develop over time to kind of tell a story and take the listener on a journey, because that's what arrangement is ultimately all about. And this track is crushing it. One of my buddies, Zach, says that this is kind of like the new Stephanie in the club because he's playing it out. And so yeah, I love this the second that came out. So let's dive in and just kind of try to take away as many arrangement principles as we can so that we can tell the stories of our tracks in a way that's going to work in the club and create a lot of excitement and create those kind of big moments on the dance floor that, you know, just make the whole dance floor go crazy. All right, so we'll start from the beginning, keep it really simple and high level. As I say that every time, there'll probably be a couple moments where we'll dive into something a little bit deeper just to kind of explore what's going on there. But let's frickin' go. Here we go. Right away, I love the sound right now of like that kind of indie dance disco influence. And you can hear that right away here. So I'm going to call this guy Beat. And again, we're keeping it high level, so I'm not going to go crazy in depth on what's going on with the beat, right? Even though it's got that little indie dance kind of influence, disco influence. But we'll just write at least like high pass, because it's just high pass right now. Something kind of strange I am noticing is that on the right side, you can see that there's this extra little clap right here. And if we come over here, you can see that again. And that's just kind of interesting. All right. Nothing to take away from that other than just to observe it. I'm certainly not going to do that, but it's cool, whatever. Cool. Just a little fill, right? Now, my question is that going to be something that's a little bit of a motif throughout? So that kind of like double kick. That's all right, cool. So let's go ahead and bring this over. So now we're going to get the full kick and the whole kind of groove here. So I'm going to go bass. And let's kind of just map this guy. Oh, we got to actually create a MIDI clip. There we go. And again, just this kind of almost now electro influence as well on top of the indie dance with the kind of offbeat bass. So I'm just going to map out the rhythm of this really quick. So you could hear that if you count the beats like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you count off beats with the beats, so you're counting eighth notes, you're going 1 and 2 and 3 and. You'll hear that the bass a lot of times is playing on the off beats, so on the and. So 1 and 2 and. Every now and then there's a little bit of a syncopated note, we can say. We're not going to go too deep into that, but let's just map this out. So right there, for example. So if we go like this, I'm just going to put it on C3. I have no idea what the note is, but so ba-da-dum-bum. And so we're going to go, I might as well just jump this up an octave just to indicate the movement. I don't know if it is going up an octave. It kind of sounds like it, but it kind of actually also sounds like the bass is playing on the beats as well. So bum, 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 bum. So I'll put on there. Ooh. I'm going to move this guy up just because it's a different kind of sound than these. Okay, cool. Let's duplicate this here. So I'm just going to go like this. And we'll just duplicate. And what is this next guy? And then here we just get a last offbeat. I want to know if there's a little note right here. Sure, why not? I'm going to move these guys down actually because it's kind of more similar to that. Cool, and you can see this is starting to repeat. And so we're going to get this very basic kind of, you can almost think of it as call response. Probably a better way to think about it would just simply be an A-B bass line. You've got this first part here that has that nice swell into the next bar. And then you just have like basically the offbeats here in the going into the next bar. And so you got this kind of little pattern like this. And there you go. So this kind of two parts to the bass line. Very simple. One thing I want to point out is I hear this kind of weird texture back there. Listen. Blah, 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 right? That's probably sounding crazy for a second. That's kind of what it sounds like. Blah, blah, blah. I like that because, like, just adding something that is a slight unique identifier to the track, you know, don't need to go crazy with this. This is not crazy, but there's that weird texture in the drums, right? It's not just tops, it's not just high pass, but you get this weird kind of sound back there. Blah, 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 right? And that kind of continues through here, like, and it's going to continue throughout, but it serves a little bit of an identifier, which is cool because it's like, hey, I know that song. All right, cool. Now we're starting to get into some real stuff. So here we are. Okay, cool. So we're going to do some effects really quick. So I'm going to do effects up. I'm going to create all the effects channels. So we'll do effects up, effects down, and then effects accent. Effects up, just build tension. Hey, we're going somewhere new. That's what effects up communicates. This could be a riser, white noise, tonal, doesn't matter. The sound is going up, and that creates tension and anticipation in the listener. Effects down, not as common, but like, you know, usually it actually shows up in like when you're moving into a section with lower energy, like when you move into the main break and build. But that communicates a settling of the energy, like, hey, we're chilling out, right? And then an accent effect just emphasizes a moment. So classic effects accent would be like a crash. Psh, this is exciting. That's what it says, all right? And so if you think about it, almost all effects are going to just fit into these three kind of categories. And so right away, I'm just going to put one right here, a little bit of like a synthy kind of effects up. Could actually just be a reverse into something. So I might be being premature about this, but whatever. Let's see what happens. Lots of reverses. You've got some kind of synth reverse. You got a vocal reverse there, and it sounds like there's some white noise there. So lots of pulling action into this B section of the bass drop here, where you introduce the bass line. Cool. All right. So we're getting the first Vox cash out. All right. So I'm just going to go like this. And we'll go like this. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it like this. Like I'm just going to do lots of reverses. There you go. That's descriptive enough. Check this out. Remember how I was wondering if that little double kick pattern was going to continue? Right there. Here it is. Watch. Boom. There you go. A little bit of motif, right? Structural repetition, just repeating these little things. So over time, the listener just gets used to them, picks up on them. They're like little signposts on the freeway, just letting everyone know where they are. And so here we go. And then bam, we're going to get the ARP. Cool. And so let's put this in here. Cool. So let's move this over, bass over here. I'm just going to get this and... Cool. Maybe we'll go like this, and they'll go like this. Cool. All right. Cool. More reverses. You hear that? All right, sweet. One thing we'll do too is create like a little bit of a map here. So I'm going to create like a high level arrangement map just kind of to explain these things. There's one thing in here that's unique in the arrangement, and especially if you follow my arrangement breakdowns, it could throw you off, but I'm going to hopefully make it easy to understand. But so we're going to have intro here. Oh no, there's new Ableton thing. Good gosh. All right, so I'm going to color intro brown because who cares about the freaking intro? All right, and then here we have bass. Well, you know who cares about the intros? DJs. Just make it easy for DJs to mix into the freaking song. All right, and that's why you just have beats right here. All right, now one thing I want to get into, this is going to be bass. I wrote bass, but let me write BD for bass drop. Why? Because we're dropping the bass. But I also want to turn this into an A section, B section, because that's exactly what's going on. So here we have the intro, just making it easy for DJs to mix in. You've got the beats, right? Easy to just kind of transition in from the next track. Now we're dropping the bass line. DJs could mix in here too, just cutting out the things, but making it easy because it's just the bass, not a lot of hooks yet, no hooks. And then bam, after 16 bars here, now they're starting to bring in the hooks here. So lots of areas for DJs to loop and making it easy for them to DJ. And then that way when you get over here, you can start mixing in those hooks. Cool. So here we got the vocal, right? Just cash out, teasing what's to come over here. Also the title of the track. So it's like, hey, if you want to know what the song is, this is it, right? And then here we get in that art. So one thing we could do is figure this out. Bum, bum, bum. Because I love music theory. And this gives me a small opportunity, small detour here, to talk about music theory. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure it out on the piano next to me. But maybe what I could do is I'm deliberately not going to do any sound design here. And why is that? Why am I getting the spinning wheel of death? Okay, cool. There we go. All right, so let's go get an E piano, if I could spell it correctly. And then here we go. And let's go get, sure, why not? Nope, no. Okay, instruments. Cool. Why not? Cool. So let's throw this on here. But I'm specifically getting this so we don't do any sound design rabbit holes. That's for Sam Smyers to do. And we're just going to focus on arrangement. And this small little detour here, just because I love it, I'm going to figure out this art. Bum, bum. So probably here. All right, so so one of the things you do, even if you're mapping things out like this, is like, yeah, just turn on the little listen feature. Even if you don't know music theory, you can still figure things out kind of by ear. And I highly, highly recommend developing this skill, like just being able to map out melodies. Because, man, if you can map out a melody that you hear in another song, that means that when you have little melodies that fill in your head for your own songs, you'll be able to map them out. Like, I think going from like mind to MIDI or from melody to MIDI is one of the most important skills in electronic music production, right? If you just go from mind to like music, is probably the most important skill for a musician, right? Because like imagine like a guitarist has a melody in his head, he's just able to play it, right? But what about electronic musicians like this? Like if we're just working with MIDI and like different sound sources, just the skill of being able to go from melody in this case to MIDI. And then later on, like once you develop that skill of going from a melody that you hear to being able to transcribe it in MIDI, and then like going from your own head into transcribing what you hear in your head into MIDI, probably one of the most valuable skills you could possibly have. All right. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to crank this guy down just a little bit. So let's go to like -6, maybe -10. So here we are. So check it out. So how can you do that, right? So I have a little E piano on here, and I'm just turning the listener feature on, and then right, just messing around, but you can hear that, right? Now the question is, where are the notes happening? Well, bum, 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 bum. This is where counting is going to be helpful. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are beats, right? So bum, 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 bum. So bum, that's on the 1. Bum, bum, bum. Second note's on the 2. So bum, 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 bum. You can hear it with. Listen to the melody and how it relates to the kick drums. If you just get the notes on the kick drums to start, that's going to be a good starting point. So that second note right here. Why is... There we go. So, bam, bam. So where does this next note hit on the kick drum? Watch. 1, 2, 3. So check it out. Bum, 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 bum. That next note, which is here. That's right. So, I don't know why it's doing that. All right. So wait, let me see. And so what we need to do is, I think it's here again, but what we need to do is the note in between, which is going to be this guy right here on the offbeat. I don't know why it's starting the MIDI before, but there you go. All right, so then we just repeat that. Bum, bum, bum. So let's see. And probably again, although I know that the melody goes up, but let's see where. And then that last one right here goes up. So let me mute this. Bum, 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 right here. All right. So, well, if we play it, let me turn this on so you can hear it. So, bum, 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 bum. So it just goes higher. Why? Because variation. That's cool, right? And so if we just kind of like now loop around this. Maybe we'll make it. Nah, that sounds lame. Okay, cool. So there we go. So we got our little ARP there. Let's bring this back up in volume. Let's play them together. Here we go. Man, they should have put that layer in there, right? Now you might hear this kind of bump, 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 bump. I think that might just be a delay, but you could also just kind of put notes right here, right? And so that kind of would sound now like this. So, but I think again that's just kind of a delay and that this is the main melody. All right. Now, you could cheat, and let me just show you over here. If you were going to play, and then you can hop over to the Spectrum Analyzer. All right, so here we go. So here we have bump, 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 bump. And so that is what? That's G, and then E down to D sharp, right? Boom, and then you jump to the higher one right there, as you can see, and that's going to be G sharp, right? Now, what's interesting about this, and I'm going to try to spend as little time on this as possible, but what's interesting about this is if we look at the bass note on this. So if we play this. You can see that the bass, this harmonica, which is the second harmonic, the first harmonic's down here, but it's hard to see because of the kick drum. But the second harmonic right here is a D sharp. And the important thing to realize is if you are playing a saw wave, which they're using a saw wave in the bass. That's why it has that rich kind of sound. But also you can tell it's a saw wave just because of what's called like the harmonic distribution, or the distribution of harmonics down here. The way that a saw wave works is that the fundamental, which means the first harmonic, the first kind of sine wave you could think of in the bass here, is going to be obviously playing the tonic or whatever the note is. And then the way that a saw wave works is that when you have all the harmonics, the next harmonic up, so the second harmonic in a saw wave, is going to be just an octave higher. And so that's why I can zoom into the second harmonic right here and know what the bass note is. So if I hover over this, you can see on the bottom left, if I move it over a little bit, it's going to be a D sharp. But you can see right here when it hops up and gets a little bit louder. See, it just hops up an octave, so that's D sharp right there. And so the bass line's in D sharp. You can see that this guy is walking down towards D sharp, all right? And really quick, although the next thing I was about to say was going to be the key thing, but I'm just going to move the bass up actually to D sharp. And so there you go, all right? So now it's in D sharp, and we'll just move this a little bit backwards like that. I have no idea what this is doing there. All right, so getting back to the main point, let's change this to D sharp minor, okay? What's interesting is you're going to see that, let's go to E flat, D sharp minor. What's interesting is that you see this, a couple of these notes are. So this note right here, G, is not in D sharp minor. What's it in? It's in D sharp major, okay? Right there, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, so this is without a doubt minor. Like any track you're going to write in dance music is going to be minor. But what gives this almost like an eerie quality is the fact that this is major, right? Like it's just an interesting thing. Like this note is a major note without question, because if we switch back to, let's go to minor. And so right here we have D to G and D sharp to G, and this is the major note of D sharp, right? But it just gives it the ear quality. And then down here we're going to drop to what would be the Phrygian note. So if we go to Phrygian right here, this is going to be, you could see the second scale degree in Phrygian, all right? And so the unique and interesting thing about this is that we're going to the major note right here, although I would still argue that this would be D minor, right? It sounds crazy, but if you're going to write a track in a dance track, it's going to be minor. And so this is just used in this almost out of place, eerie note. And then over here, this is normal because it's just going up to the fourth. But this would be your typical kind of Phrygian sound, with going from the tonic here and then the second scale degree a half a step up. But the weird thing and unique thing, which gives this kind of out of place, kind of fish out of water sound, is the presence of the major note in here. This gives it its kind of unique sound. All right. And so if I then was going to take this guy and make it minor, right, all I would need to do is just take the G and move it down. And this is what this would sound like. So if we kind of play this over the, maybe the groove back over here, this will totally work. So check this out. All right, that sounds fine. But again, the weird thing here, and my guess is they are not doing this consciously, you know, like they're just doing this because they think it sounds cool, and it does sound cool. But here, if we play this is going to just sound weird to us because we're so used to minor in this context that this is not going to sound like happy major, especially because of this half step right here. But it's just going to sound like this eeriness. So, and this nice little reach up right there just sounds so cool. Like, you know, if you know a little bit of music theory, like, let me ask you, does that sound happy? Does that sound major? And the answer is no, it doesn't, you know? Even though it's the major note, I just think, you can almost think it's like a sharp 3, right? Like, in a way, like a sharp minor third, which is a ridiculous thing to say. But it doesn't sound major, it's minor, you know? But it's just, again, a fish out of water. So I think there's only so many ways I could say the same thing 100 times, so... But that's cool because what that does is it gives you a little bit of a tool where you can use minor, or you can use a major note in a way to stand out a little bit. Like here's an example. Like, so you can almost use the major tone here as a passing tone between the minor third, the major third, and going up to the fourth right here. I don't know how this is going to sound, but this would be a potential, another application of how you can use it, is where you're using the major note here as a passing tone between the minor third and then the fourth right here. Watch. See how you get this kind of climbing feel? Like, that's cool, but you're using the major third, which is, again, strange in the context of minor, but it's, again, what is contributing to this eerie quality of the track, all right? And so there we go. So that is a cool ARP, and we are moving on, all right? So like I said, we would dive into something that would, be derail the high-level kind of agenda, but here we go. One more way to say this is that this is another way to say this, and I'm sorry, I have to put it and say it because I just thought of it, is you could think of this as a major note in the context of minor. The reason why I say that is because if you're going to have this note down here, defines minor. Like, this is minor. What defines something as major or minor as a key is the minor third or the major third. If we have a minor third, instantly defines the key as minor. We have a major third, instantly defines the key as major. But this is a slightly different context because the context without question is minor. But what we have is we have a major note in the context of a minor key. All right, that is critical because what I'm saying is this major note here is not defining a major context. It's a major note in the context of a minor key, and that's the difference, and that's why it sounds out of place, but in a very cool and eerie way. All right, so there we go. That was kind of what I wanted to say, and now I said it, so let's move on. Cool, and then we get more reverses here, but here we're just introducing the vocal, we're mapping this out, so we could say the bass drop A here, where we're introducing the bass, equals just groove. And groove is, for me, technically defining it right now, is drums and bass. Yes, there's many different ways to talk about groove, but the way I'm using it specifically in the context of these breakdowns is that groove for me is drums and bass. All right, so a specific application of the word. And then the B section here is going to be intro hooks, right? So we have Vox title line and then plus the ARP. Right? So introducing the hooks, that's how we're going to define the A section, B section here. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so what do we got? What are we doing? We're going into a break. So what do we got to do? We got to give them a break. How do you do that? You take away the low end. All right, so what we're going to do is just type HP for high pass. The cool thing is that the bass continues with the low end. So I'm going to write full right here. And just to show you that, if we come down here. Now, what's nice about this is I can show you what I was talking about before with the bass harmonics. So if I just kind of loop around a section where there's no kick, because the cool thing here actually that they're doing is they're using a full kick to punctuate that first moment of the break. That's cool. That's like a unique little takeaway. I really like that idea. But if I play now a little bit into the break here with no kick, we just get the full bass harmonics, just no kick. Right? So full bass harmonics, no kick. But if we look, so you can see the bass down here, D sharp, right? So that's the fundamental. We go up here, this is the second note of the saw wave, and look at that. It's another D sharp. All right, so that's kind of how you can know if they're using a saw wave in the bass, is if they're if you look at the harmonics, the first harmonic is going to be obviously the tonic or the fundamental, whatever not necessarily the tonic. It depends on what note is being played, but it's going to be the fundamental note that's being played. So here, D sharp. The second harmonic of a saw wave is going to be another D sharp. I'm going to give you one more. If we go up to the third harmonic, that's going to be a fifth above. So in this case, it's going to be an A sharp. So right there, that's an A sharp. The fourth harmonic, and I promise this is the last one, is going to be another D sharp. And that's going to be this guy right there. Look at that, D frickin' sharp. You see that? So if you want to know what someone using as a bass line, in this case, we've got this amazing and beautiful case of having a bass all by itself, right? It's very easy for us to see the distribution of harmonics, at least the first four, in a saw wave, which is going to be tonic, tonic, or let me be simpler. 1, 1, 5, 1. And I'm referring to the notes in the scale. So it's going to be the first note in the scale, first note, 5, and 1, depending on what note you're playing. All right. And so here we have D sharp, D sharp, A sharp, D sharp. All right. Anyway, so moving on. So the cool thing there, two things. One, we get that nice little punctuation into the break with the full kick. Boom. And we're going to get the full bass playing through here. And so that's just unique. That's creative, you know? I like that. That's cool. They're still getting a break, but we're just kind of bending the rules a little bit, you know? There's the higher level is, dude, give them a freaking break. Just let them take a pause on dancing for a second. You do that mostly by removing the low end. Here, they're removing the kick, but the bass is still going, right? So they're not completely removing the low end, but enough to stop the dancing, which is the whole point. But so again, it's a creative execution. So ARP continues. So here we go. There's our nice little ARP. And of course, here we're getting this nice cash out again. Another little cash out. Oh, look at that. Speeding up the presentation of cash out. Ooh, now we're getting the full vocal. Cool. So here we go. Well, one of the full vocals. Kind of like the chorus vocal. All right, cool. And then we're getting another cash out. And you better believe we're going to get that thing right there. So it will do all I do. All I do. Cool. Let's go over here. All right, and we're getting these reverses again right through here. So this says HP, but I'm going to do no kick because they're completely removing the kick right here. All right, cool. All right, cool. So then let's just keep on dividing these into A, B. So we got break number 1, and this is going to be A section equals cash, full cash out Vox. And then in the break 1 B section, how am I formatting this? Okay, break 1B, this is going to be verse plus building elements, right? So I want to do this too. So we're going to do Vox high level, all right? And so what I mean by Vox high level is that we're just going to map out what's going on here. So we're just going to have 2 colors because there's only 2 parts of the track. So let's go to this, and this is going to be black. So although it's not the best color given the color of the DAW right now, but that's okay. So this is going to be cash out. This is going to be teases, we'll say. This is going to be cash out full chorus, all right? And then we're going to get this new part, which is going to be verse. All right, so let's go like this, all right? And so the point of why I'm making these is to kind of teach you how to reference a little bit, which is like, look, they have kind of 2 basic parts of the vocal. You've got the cash out chorus, and you got a verse. And these are really the only 2 parts of the vocal. So if you are able to get a kind of title line-ish type of chorus thing, and then a verse, then you could structure your track in a very similar way to this track, right? The only other big thing, remember we're looking at macros here, other big thing is the ARP. And so probably the most important things to look at how this track develops are going to be these 3 channels right here. This is just a higher level vocal, right? We're going to map out the vocal, maybe a little more detail, although I don't know how instructive it's going to be to have these 2 different ones, but I definitely want to have this one because the whole point is if you can get kind of like some kind of chorus, this plays for 8 bars, you're teasing a little bit over here, 8-bar chorus, 8-bar verse, and some big ass ARP, then you can structure your track in a similar way, right? That's how you reference. You don't go zoom all the way in, right? So sometimes, like, if you think about the forest for the trees analogies, like where the idea of like you can't see the forest for the trees because you're so zoomed into the trees, but producers are so zoomed in, they're going into the trees, into the cells of the trees, into the mitochondria of the cells of the trees, right? And you got to zoom all the way out sometimes. And what we're looking is we're taking a forest level view, and these are all the little trees that we're looking at. But the most important ones are going to be these guys, how these guys develop. Because if you have an 8-bar chorus, an 8-bar verse, a big ARP that can just keep on playing, and groove, which again is drums and bass, there you go, right? You can map your track out in a similar way. Or you download this and you go find a chorus that is 8 bars, a verse that is 8 bars, and you have fun with trying to write an ARP, and then you just make some drums and bass, and boom, you can map your track out in a very similar way, all right? It's just zooming out. That's probably the key thing that producers need to learn how to do when referencing, is zooming out, because they get too bogged down by the details, too zoomed in. It's just frustrating, and you just gotta step back. That's it. All right, let's keep going.
All I do is cash out, running through these checks till I pass out.
All right, you hear those lovely up effects, detuned saw wave right there. So we'll do like detuned saw wave.
Running through these checks till I
Right, so verse, different vocal than what we just heard right there.
running through these checks till I pass out.
So right here,
Running through
cool. And so this is kind of like a reverse. And then here we have the verse. Oh man, reverse into the verse. Wow, that's hurting my brain a little bit. Okay, so I probably already hurt your brain, but that's okay. Let's keep going.
running through these checks till I all I do is cash out. Running through these checks.
This is cool. This is really cool. Listen to how the the ARP dips in volume under the verse. Right here, it's pretty loud, but then as that reverse comes up, the ARP starts to dip down. Listen.
Running through these checks till I all I do is cash out. Running through
And so what they're doing here is they're just moving down the cutoff on the ARP. So let's cut off down, right? To make room for verse box. There you go, right?
running through these checks till I pass.
So this is, again, I'm just going to bring over the drums so we got the full bass still. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the bass. Like at some point you got to take out the lows, and you can kind of see that happen here in the waveform as it gets less thick, you can say. And okay, let's see what happens. Let's see how they build, because we got the verse here, but how are we going to build? How are we going to build tension and create the anticipation to go into the drop? So let's go.
Shorty give me neck till I pass.
So this actually right here, we're going to add a little reverb being, we'll call it washout. The track is called Cash Out, and the ARP right here is washing out. Okay.
I swear to God.
Right, it's washing out.
Running through these.
When you wash something out like that, it creates tension.
I swear to God. All I do is
You can hear the detuned saw come up, so that's a riser, an up effect, right?
I swear to God. All I do is
But the bass is actually still going. I thought it was going to go away here.
neck till I pass out. I swear to neck till I pass out. I neck till I pass out. I swear to
You can hear some tops go away.
neck pass out. Cash out. Running through these checks till I pass out. Shorty give me neck till I pass out. I swear to God, all I do is cash out. And if you ain't a
Cool. And then all this gets cut. So here, let's cut this and all this.
swear to God, all I do is cash out. And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my tripod.
Cool. And then we get a nice little fill here. So fill, drum fill. Again, look, I'm not trying to map out.
Get up out my tripod.
Although then it's kind of cool, right? So you're going to get some kind of like roll into it. Like, see that? And you can zoom in here. And this is not anything that, let's see. That's getting too detailed. I was just telling you to zoom out. Now I'm zooming in, literally. But so let's just keep it simple, right? This is a fill. You can do any kind of fill.
Get up out my tripod.
But the cool thing is you kind of just roll up into it. We get this nice kind of 808-ish kind of snare right there.
Get up out my tripod. I've been selling cracks since like the
Cool.
I swear to God, all I do is cash out. And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my tripod.
Cool. Now this right here is what I call a PIPO. So we're going to go PIPO. PIPO stands for, is an acronym, and it stands for Pattern Interrupt Payoff. PIPO, Pattern Interrupt Payoff. So what's going on? This is a building pattern. We're building and building and building tension. But then that building energy, boom, it stops. It gets interrupted. That is a very emotionally arresting moment because we get all this tension, and boom, it stops. It's like, what's going on, right? And that's when everyone pays attention on the dance floor. And when everyone's paying attention on the dance floor, what do you want to do? You want to hit them with the good stuff, right? You want to pay it off. You want to hit them with the payoff. And so this is the payoff in this track.
And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my tripod.
And then later on, we got this guy.
And if you ain't a hoe,
So same one, actually, in this case.
and if
Now, a lot of times, and you've definitely heard this in tracks like Think Appetite by Chris Lorenzo, or just like any track, really, you're going to have the title line as the payoff as well. Like you could say like cash out, but in this case, they're saying cash out so many other times in this track that it's impossible not to think that's the name of the track. But a lot of times, the payoff will be that title line, but not here, and that's okay.
And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my tripod. I've been selling cracks since like the 5th grade.
All right, cool. So here we get a drop. So drop. Now this is actually what I call hook drop and one, because this is where we're really starting to put the hooks over the groove. Again, groove I'm defining here in my own language in terms as the drums and bass. Again, there's a million ways to talk about grooves, and they're all totally fine. Just in this context, groove is drums and bass. All right, so here we have a hook drop one where we put the hooks over the groove. All right, and so here, this is just going to be verse. There it is. All right. So maybe try to find two verses or not. Just repeat the same verse here. It's going to sound and feel different because in this context, we're building. In this context, you have a drop. So if you just take the verse and duplicate it, it's going to sound totally fine, right? But actually, John Summit's track with Gorgon City kind of does that. They, what is it? Are having fun or something like that, that track. Although they're kind of working the verse up and then they land heavy into it. But anyway. So,
I've been selling cracks since like the 5th grade. Really never made no.
okay, but let's get the full kick and the bass over here. So here we go. Nice. So we got we got the beat, we've got the bass, and we've got the verse.
I've been selling cracks since like the 5th grade. Really never made no difference what this shit made. Sabi's told me fit them packs and how to maintain.
Oh, that's cool.
Difference what this shit made.
Okay, hold up.
Cash out.
So this is cool. So again, here they have the double kick. Here they have a double kick. Watch. Double kick. Here we have a double kick. But here they're starting to speed up when the double kick happens, right? So here it doesn't happen just at the 8. It probably happens here. Let's check it out. So there's the double kick, but it also happens here at the 4. All right, so check this out. All right, so speeding things up, right? Having a double kick right there just adds an extra energy, right? This now has more energy over what came before in the previous drop. This drop just introduced the bass. Here we're starting to introduce the hooks, introducing the ARP, and introducing the cash out. I don't know why the ARP's over there. And introducing just the title line. But here we're getting a full verse, super loud, very energetic in the performance. And then the drums are now starting to match that energy, but it's a very subtle move. It's just adding the double kick here at the 4 and not just at the 8, you know? So it's worth pointing that out because we just heard it. So... And you can see there's other stuff going on in there, right? So there's like a response or some kind of like scat, improv, background vocals going on. Also a little bit of a clap fill. So it's not just the double kick. It's a combination of a couple little things that are accenting this moment here at the 4. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to take back what I said earlier, but I am going to add to it, which is, look, so we got like, let's say verse 1 here. All right. Verse 2, you could totally just have repeated verse 1 over here, but let's just say this is like verse 3. All right. So there's kind of like, just think of how many 8-bar chunks of vocals are you getting? And we could call this a verse 3, but I'm going to just maybe call this bridge, right? Just slight, just something different. Maybe this color, this a little bit different. But the point is, we're just zooming out on it, like, you know? And so if you come across a vocal on Splakes that has like, you know, a nice little title line, and then it has like 8 bars, and then maybe a second 8-bar section. Again, you can still map out your arrangement following this kind of structure. Now, this is what I talked about earlier on, where producers might have a struggle with trying to make sense of this, all right? So let's get past it, and we'll come back and make sense of it. Let's just write what's there first, and then we'll come back and figure out what's going on.
We get that money back and spend it on the same thing. Running through these texts till I pass out.
All right, I'm just going to color this just random, and then this one is just another vocal. Let's just color it something else. Another full kick here to accent that break. I think that's such a cool thing, right? I love the subtle things that happen. All right, so okay, I'm going to call this, let's color this just this, and I'm just going to call this AB for now. All right, some of you might know what that's going to be, but for now, we're just going to call it AB, and let's see.
Running through these texts till I pass out. Shorty give me neck.
So interesting with the bass change right here. You hear that?
Running through these texts.
Complete change in the bass.
Running through these texts till I pass out. Shorty give me.
All right, so let's change this up. So we're going to come over here. So kind of just playing a simplified version of what's going on, but...
Running through these texts till I pass out. Shorty give me neck till I pass out.
Okay, there we go, and then the bass goes away.
Running through these texts.
Obviously, we have the big detuned saw wave riser again.
Running through these texts till I pass out. Shorty give me.
One thing I notice is the delay on here, on the delay on the bass, just creates a sense of atmosphere. Like when you're in a break, one of the things you want to do other than give them a break and introduce the main things, like and here with the cash out full vocal and with the verse, is just create a little bit of a sense of atmosphere.
Cash out. All I do is cash out.
Now, the thing that's creating a nice sense of atmosphere here in the first break is the ARP, right? And then over here, ARP's doing that for sure, right? But also just that little delay, that little extra thing, that little delay on the whatever it is. What am I trying to say? On the bass is also creating a nice atmosphere. So let's bring in the ARP.
Running through these texts till I pass out. The shorty give me neck till I pass out. And tell my niggas murder TV hoe.
So this is a washing out again. All right.
Running through these texts till I pass out. The shorty give me neck till I pass out. And tell my niggas murder TV hoe. Bitch caught a body by a week ago.
All right, cool. And so what we're going to do is let's bring this over here. Actually, I don't know why I deleted that, but there we go. So what do we got? Cool. All right, so we're getting a nice little ride lift here. So ride. So you can hear that come in. Now we're getting the drums to be more exciting, right? That's cool. So let's bring this over. And you can hear that the ride is panning quickly from left to right and back and forth. All right, so let's cover these vocals really quick. So here we have, and of course we have the fill. So let's bring over Mr. Phil here, and we'll just put it right there because that's where it goes. And then, and same thing, this is just another typo right here. Look at how the building pattern builds, stops, you pay attention. Whoa, this is crazy. Oh my God, that vocal's so cool. Oh my God, there's now like this fill and boom, you get hit by the drop. You see, like it's just this epic moment that we will never, ever, ever get sick of. Producers get sick of it because they want to be fancy and say, oh, you know, I want to be so unique and different. But the people on the dance floor, they love it, you know. That's why you keep doing it. So, because it's awesome. Cool. So here we got this nice vocal delay. So I'm just going to kind of extend this out, and this is going to be delay for what? Why are they delaying it? For momentum, right? The physics of it, right? There's so much energy right here, and then boom, you get hit, and then that delay just adds to the excitement and the forward momentum of the track. All right, cool. And so all right, so this is like, let's just actually write this out. So this is like, so we're going to do a week ago. This is week ago. And then let's go like this. And then this, we get another delay for momentum. Cool, I'm going to put this over here. Okay, maybe I'll just color these a slightly different color here. Maybe I'll go like a gray. Like that. Okay. Oh, a little bit of a detuned saw wave right here. So let's go like that. I guess we can just copy it like that. So, cool. There's something going on right here. No idea what that is. Sounds like maybe a drum. Bum. Sure, no idea, but there you go. Definitely not going to make or break the song. And then we're also getting the reverses, all right? So I'm just going to write down revs. And then again, double kick, right? All right, double kick over here too, probably. There you go, all right. All right, cool. And so what I want to do is I just want to break this down. What's going on here? The way I see this drop, the way I break it down for myself is it's just, this is all one drop, All right. And so let's just color this together right here. Or maybe I'll just color it red because that's my color for drops. So this whole thing is just one drop. And what's going on is like when you have a drop, a very typical classic thing to do is to divide your drop into an A section and a B section. And that's kind of what we've been doing over here all along. All right. And so, but when you have an A section and then you switch to the B section, if you think about it, that's a massive moment, because what's going on when you switch from an A section to a B section? Well, you're effectively handing off to a different hook. That's basically what's going on. Because if you think about what defines an A section versus what defines a B section, it's usually just going to be the hook. The groove is going to be the same. Maybe there'll be like a little ride that comes in, like in this case. But the biggest change that happens is going to be from passing the baton between hooks. And so the A section here in drop 1, hook drop 1A, equals what's the hook? Vocal. That's it. That's all we got to write down. All right. But in the B section, what's the hook here? It's going to be the ARP, right? Or if I want to zoom out from the ARP even, it would just be like sound design, because these are the highest level category hooks: vocals, sound design, right? And so that's almost always the case. Like probably my favorite example, the site for this is La Danza by John Summit. A section vocal, B section sound design, right? Now, in the B section, a lot of times you'll have a little piece of the vocal that's going to be kind of chatting or interacting with the sound design. So if we listen right here, we could go, and that goes, but then the ARP takes over. And then here at the 4, we're going to get the vocal again. All right, but the main thing here is the sound design, is the ARP. All right, so here's what I'm getting to, is when you make a switch from an A section to a B section, again, that is a big deal. That's one of the biggest moments in the song, other than like right here, like this, when you go from break to drop, obviously huge moment, the absolute biggest moments. This is the biggest moment, going from the main break into the drop. But when you switch from the A section to the B section, that is also a critically important moment. And so what you want to do is you want to prepare the listener for that change. You want to anticipate that change. So when the change happens, it creates that extra excitement right here, right? And so the way that I see what they're doing right here is this is just a very dramatic edit between the A section and B section. It's a very dramatic handoff between the vocal and then over to the sound design. It's just, and so a lot of times, I wonder if I can even if I can create this. But for example, one thing that maybe could happen would be something like this. I'm not saying it's going to sound good, but typically you could just have a pretty simple handoff, right? A little bit of an edit right here. An edit is just kind of like, I define it kind of like as like a high pass, removing the low end in some way at the end of A bars, and then you just pass off to the B section. So that would sound like this. Right? And so that's cool. That works. But this is just a very dramatic version of what I just played for you, because we're high passing for 8 bars all the way through, building up to finally switch over to the B section. All right. And so again, it's very simple. Like producers can get tripped up over this because they're like, what is this? Is this a break? You could treat it as a break, but I just wouldn't, because this is so clearly A section, B section. And this is just such a clear, for me, handoff or edit, and just a very dramatic A-B edit is what I would say. All right. So that's how I would make sense of that. Still one drop, just a dramatic A-B edit between the A section and B section. All right, cool. And so let's just keep on going. So now what we're doing is we're coming out of the first drop and we're going to go into the main break and build. So here we go. Cool. So now we're going back to the cash out rep right here. So let's move this over. We've got the ride still going. What else do we have? Cool. So this is just a strip. A strip is when you have basically kick, bass, hook, right? So here you have kick, bass, and hook.
Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out. Cash.
Oh, cool. All right. So now we're getting these guys here. We're getting kind of like the breakier version over here.
Cash out.
And we're getting this interesting sound. I haven't heard this yet, so I'm just going to call this synth for now.
Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out. Cash out.
And you can hear it right here. Bum, bum, bum.
Cash out.
So this is just like a D sharp. Bum.
Cash out.
And then
Do is cash out. Cash out. Cash out.
so then let's just Command J. So this is just a E.
Cash out.
So right over here.
Cash out. Cash out. Cash out.
All right, we're getting all the lovely reverses right here. So let's go revs.
Cash out. Do is cash out. Cash out. Do is cash out. Cash out. Do is cash out. Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out.
Hold on one sec.
Cash out. Cash out. Cash out.
I'm hearing something different in the bass line. I'm hearing a note like right here.
Cash out.
Wait, right here.
Cash out.
Ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum. So
Cash out.
you hear a little gap between the jump up, but here you can hear it being helped up.
Cash out. Cash out.
Okay. I wonder, I have to check if that's playing elsewhere. Let's see.
I've been selling crack since like the 5th grade. Really never made no difference with the shit. Hey, Sappy's told me I'm passing how to maintain. We get that money back and spend it on the same thing. Running through these days.
That's hard to hear. That's-
Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out.
you can hear definitively there's no extra note right here. What about in the... Yeah, there's no note here either. So this is a new development, actually. So color this a different color. Interesting. I wonder if that's going to play through over here. Again, subtle things. I wonder if that's going to play over here. Let's see.
Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out. Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out. Cash out.
Okay, cool. So one of the things here is this is, you could think of after the drop. I don't consider this part of the drop. I consider this as part of the break, because what we're doing is we're starting to step down the energy to the lowest part energy of the track, and that's usually going to be here. So after your drop, you're going to have almost like this bridge section that's starting to step the energy down. There's tons of different ways you can do this. Probably the most common way to start stepping the energy down or to settle the energy is by doing a strip. Because what you're doing is you're removing a lot of the high frequency stuff. And the high frequency sounds like hats and tops add so much speed, because sometimes you'll have like 16th notes in there. But if you take the 16th notes away in the top end, you're losing a lot of energy. And so it's a great way to start stepping down, because you're keeping the low end, but you're losing the high frequency energy. So immediately a step down. Very common thing to do. Another thing you can do is like high pass the track. So if you just high pass, now you're removing the low end, right? And so that's what's going on like kind of over here, although not really, because they're keeping the full bass. But again, the track John Summit, the one with the Gorgon City, something about all right, like or I having fun, something like that. They're high passing. They high pass into the break, into the main break. But here they're stepping down through a strip. The last thing you can do is you just cliff dive, which means you just go boom. You go into basically nothing. You completely take the drums and the bass away, and you basically go into hooks and atmosphere. right? That's like a cliff dive. That one's a little bit risky, especially in like tech house when the energy is almost like constant, because you can really kill the dance floor if you do that. So just, be careful if you do that. Safe way to go is strip. Safe way to go is high pass. Strip is definitely one of the most common ways to do it though. So here we have a strip. And then what we're doing is that is, again, a bridge. It's a bridge for a couple things. It's a bridge in terms of settling the energy through the groove. So this is like full-on peak energy of the groove because we got the full drums, we've got the full bass, we've got now a panning ride cymbal. We step way down because we remove the top end energy. Right? You could feel that dip. And then this is where the track kind of bottoms out. Right? This is the lowest point of the energy. So this is a bridge in terms of the energy levels. It's also a bridge a lot of times in tracks where you finally kind of set things up to land when you get to kind of the break section, right? This is a bridge to kind of like a break you can think of. A break, one of the things you do is you present the main thing. So I like to call this a lot of times like the spotlight section because this is where you can spotlight the main hook. Now, I don't think they're doing like a full-on spotlight right here, but there is only one way to know. Let's check it out.
All I do is cash out, cash out. All I do is cash out, cash out.
So let's write strip right here. So cool. One of my favorite things there is that crazy little brrr sound. Sounds like a dove or something.
Cash out, cash out.
But we got our nice revs. Let's do kind of like a fun accent effect here with a little dove sound. All right. Definitely a human voice actually, but it sounds kind of like a dove. Again, I love this theme. Look at this, that kick right there, just punctuating the thing, like the breaks. I think that's so cool. But you can see what's happening here. Is like now the low end goes away, right? So if I play here, lots of energy. I play here, less energy. I play here, way less energy. Do you see how this is stepping down in energy? Only to do what? To build it back up, all right? But the point is that we need to get just tops. This is just tops. You know what? We can write HP because there's the kick in there, right? So HP, just mostly tops, right? But this is a showcase-ish area because we have the ARP. Now, I would think that like maybe it would be more of like the cash out vocal would definitely be the main showcase. But we could showcase the ARP too. That's cool. No bass at all, right? Just super bottoming out the track, but we're not losing it. We're not killing the energy. It's still there. People can still move. They can still dance. So cool. And of course we get our revs again. Lots of nice revs in this one. All right, so we got strip. This is going to be, let's say, like break. We'll just call this break. So I'll go like this, right, like that. And this is, also call this kind of like spotlight. This is, I don't know why I said spotlight. It's actually showcase. I knew I was saying spotlight, but I was like, this is not the right word. Like subconsciously. Showcase, right? That's kind of the word. You want to showcase the main thing because as you step the energy down, now there's like no more energy or bottom level energy. Just put the main thing in their face, And in this case, they're putting the ARP there, which is cool. All right. And so boom. So now we're getting the cash out. So let's move this over here. But the thing is, now we are making a move, right? We are making a definitive move in the opposite direction. So here, this is classic. So if I go even a higher level on this, right? And we'll just do like MBB structure for main break and build, all right? So like one kind of theme that was unintentional in this video is to really talk about A-B sections. And so this is like MBBA, which is going to be down energy, right? And then MBBB, main break and build B section, equals up energy, right? We are settling the energy. We are building tension, right? We are increasing energy. I think it's late. My brain is not making the words come to me very easily right now. Black is the worst color for this right now. Maybe what I can do is just very quickly, at the expense of your patience, change the colors slightly. So let's go to different one. It's kind of weird. There we go. Hey, there we go. All right, cool. So now the black shows up a little bit better. All right, cool. Here we go.
Cash out. Cash out.
Cool. So now we're getting full tops, right? Well, like this, we're just gonna do a HP beat, right? Because this is full kick now, like at least full kick with a high pass.
Cash out.
But the point is here is I'm gonna do like do this. I'm gonna cut this section right here, put a new MIDI thing in, and just call this the turning point. Right? This is the turning point. Turning point for what? Well, to go from down to up. Right? This is probably even a better way to put it, right? And I've said this a million times, but yeah, it's just the A section is down, the B section is up. That's it. Like if you get that little thing right, like it's like you could think of it like as a V taper. And you know what? I'm just going to do it. Let me just see something really quick. So go to pictures and I'm going to do V taper. Come on. Do I have it? Nice. Here we go. You ready? This is something I created. It says last year, but definitely way before that. But here we go. There we go. The V taper. We got HD1, then we got the main break and build, then we're going back into HD2. But down energy, right? And then up energy. And then here's another one. Boom. This is ridiculous. But I made this, of course, because you're never going to forget this. But this is exactly what's going on, right? Because we got the down energy, and then we got the up energy. And that's what fundamentally, top level, highest level needs to happen in the main break and build. And then this right here, of course, almost by definition, is the turning point. And at the turning point, there's two things you could do, right? You can step up or you can step down, but you need to make a definitive move. Where are we going? That's what the listener wants to know. All right. Now, if in either case, let's say we step up, what happens is that in the main break and build, there's going to be the lowest to highest moment. So in this case, since we're stepping up here, this is the lowest moment, and we're stepping up to the highest moment, right? We're moving back up to the highest moment. If you step down here and you bottom things out even more, right? What happens is now, sorry, well, that scared the crap out of me. But what happens here is that if this was a step down, the lowest point would be here, and we're going to work up to the highest point. Either way, we're going from lowest to highest somewhere in the main break and build, all right? All right, so lots of theory, but if you just get it, it's so simple, right? I'm using a lot of words, but if I'm trying to boil it down to the absolute essentials, right? The essence of it. The essence of this is down. The essence of this, up, right? So simple. And so if you get it and you just execute on it, then at least you're getting the most fundamental things and the energy of the track right. All right. So, and you can see it playing out right here in real time as we listen. That's the key. All right. So here they're doing a definitive move. They're stepping up. All right.
Cash out. Cash out. All I do is
All right. And we're getting the start of the build. You can hear that kind of detuned saw wave in the background there. So detuned saw.
cash out.
So we're not getting the full-blown build elements yet with like kick rolls, snare rolls, all those things, but we're starting to build in that direction. All right. And one of the things that we do in a build is like this, right? So if you've ever read Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, you can kind of think of it like this. This is going to be build slow, although that reference has absolutely nothing really to do with this, although we can certainly bridge it in some way. But, you know, this is we just build slow, and then we build fast, all right? And so I'm just going to color these orange. Cool. And sweet.
Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out. Cash out. Cash out. All I do is cash out. Running through these checks till I.
Cool. And now let's get the high-level vocal thing here. So we got the cash out here, and we got it here. And then here we're getting a verse, right?
Running through these checks till I pass out. Pass out. All I do is cash out. Cash out.
We're bringing the bass back. Let's see if we're get which bass we're getting right here.
Cash out.
Ah, check that out. Well, isn't that crazy? We're just getting the normal one. We're not getting the one that has that extra skippy. So I'm just going to write like extra. What just happened? I don't know what just happened. Extra syncopated note. There you go. Should be clear, I guess.
Cash out.
But here we're just going back to the normal one.
Cash out.
This is high pass, so I'm going to write HP.
Cash out. All I do is cash out.
So a little bit of high passing here on the kick and the bass and stuff. I don't want to go too deep into that.
Running through the cash out. Running
Again, punctuating with the full kick right here. I love that.
out. Running through these checks till I pass.
But here we're getting kind of starting to get the full bass again. So if we look,
Running through these checks till I pass out.
not quite, but pretty close. Like some of those notes are.
Running through these checks till I pass out. Pass out. Shorty give me neck till I pass.
So we're getting more of the detuned saw wave,
Running
and we're getting the snare roll. I hope I didn't miss a snare roll earlier. So snare roll.
running through these checks till I
Cool. Let's color this orange. There we go.
running through the
16th notes, about as simple as it gets.
running
And then once again, we're getting that vocal reverse. So let's get this going over here. So we need this right there. Cool. There we go. So we got that reverse into the verse. Oh, man. That screwed me up before, screwed me up again.
running through these checks till I pass out. Pass out. Shorty
Nice. Okay. I was wondering if they were going to do this. So a little bit of a kick roll. We'll see if this kick roll develops. It might not. But just this idea of having the kick start to punctuate these sections is just cool. I just really like that.
till I pass out. Pass out. Shorty give me neck till I pass out. Pass out.
All right. And once again, the ARP hides and comes back or washes
All
out.
I do is cash out. Running through these checks till I
So here it doesn't filter down as much as it did before, but
pass out.
it definitely washes out. So we're going to go to wash out. So there we go.
Running through these checks till I neck till I pass out. Pass out. I swear to God, all I do is cash out. And if you ain't
Cool. So get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, this. Well, actually, those are, one of those is the arrangement stuff. So
all I do is cash out. And if you ain't a hoe,
cool. And then let's get the pipe-o right there.
all I do is cash out. And if you ain't a hoe,
Okay, that's kind of cool. You can get this little up effect right here. Like, I'm just going to call this like this. Screech. I hope you spell it with two E's and not an A. Whatever. What can you do?
and if you ain't a
But what's cool about this is what I call an elevation. This is probably the simplest, least elevation there probably is ever. Maybe not ever, but very much so. But over here,
and if you ain't a hoe, get up out my trap.
right? And if you ain't home, nothing but the vocal right here. But here,
And if you ain't a hoe,
You get that little wah. Also, the vocal performance is different here. Listen to this.
And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my trap. And if you ain't a hoe,
Some kind of like a doubler phasey effect on there. But here,
and if you ain't a,
single performance right here.
and if you ain't a,
This is like a doubler. Maybe it's an actual double, although it doesn't quite sound like it. Sounds like it's kind of an artificial doubler or double
and if you ain't a hoe,
because it's very phasey.
and if you ain't a hoe, get up out my trap. And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my trap.
But there you go. So that kick roll though, that is a massive elevation, right?
Get up out my trap.
Boom. And yeah, kind of some cool things to point out there. Even the fact that you have a smaller vocal performance with just a single voice right here,
And if you ain't a hoe,
and that as opposed to this one,
and if you ain't a hoe,
the fact that this one's smaller right here sets up that fill to feel even bigger, right? And so this is what an elevation for me is when you have one section of the track that is elevated over a similar section of the track. So right here, this is a piepo. This over here is a piepo. This piepo is elevated over that piepo. You see, that's what I mean by elevation. How is it elevated? Well, you've got that screechy thing. You've got a single performance here. You've got a doubler back there. But this one has a much bigger deal, which is going to be the that kick roll that comes in. That's a massive elevation, all right?
and if you ain't a hoe, get up out my trap.
So I'm going to put like kick roll right here. And so let's go kick roll. That's a big deal right there.
Get up out my trap.
That brings a lot of excitement.
Get up out my trap.
And we have the reverses, of course, although the screech is already taken up. This, so we'll do screech plus revs. There we go.
And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my trap.
All right, cool. So here we are. Let's go over now to hook drop 2, where we put the hooks over the groove. Hook drop 2. All right. And here's another elevation. All right, can you hear it? Horn. Getting horny up in here. All right, so here we go. Definitely the creepiest thing I've said in a video, but I'm not cutting it out. So here we go. All right, so we got the full beat. Full beat. All right, we've got a nice delay on here. So we'll do delay. Delay for mo, faux mo, which means for momentum, in case you were wondering. I probably shouldn't do that, because in case someone forgets for momentum. Because if you download the template and you see faux mo, you're like, what the hell is going on? All right, so here we go. All right, let's get the ARP. So let's bring this guy over here and get rid of the text. So this right here, that horn, is an elevation because we don't have any other horns over here or here. But we do have this synth right here. I didn't hear that before. And this plays also right here. Why didn't you tell me if you heard it? For crying out loud. All right, is that the only time that plays? Let's see. I mean, it's just cool. It's just introducing this thing. This is an elevation here, over and above here. And this is an elevation over and above here. So you get this progressive elevations here with these kind of stabs at the start. you actually get both. You're getting this thing over here as well. So you're getting the horn and you're getting this little synth right here. I wonder if we're going to get the bum bum. Nice. Look at that. That's sick. All right. That's pretty advanced. Sounds simple, but like executing that and doing that would be difficult for producers to do, but that's really cool. And guess what else we're hearing? We're getting some nice 16th notes. All right? This is another elevation because we have not had 16th note tops in the track until now. All right? So if I play over here, let me just make sure I'm not talking out of my... No 16th notes. That's clean. That's kick, hat, clap, and then a ride. But here, you can hear the 16th notes. It's subtle, but they're without a doubt there. Okay, so I think I'm just going to copy from here. I think that's right. Nah. And if you ain't a hoe, get up on my trap. Sabbies told me fit them passing high. Get up on my trap. All right, let's get this and put it here, and we'll go like that. Another horn right here. Okay, we're going to get the detuned riser right here. Cool. Detuned saw. So detune saw. Plus the revs, so we'll go the reverses. All right, so let's just move all this over like that, and we're going to get the cash out. So let's get this. I'm going to copy this. I don't know if they're going to do all the vocals, but let's see. So they're not doing the synth here. Yep, so they're doing the whole thing here. So you can hear the delay coming up on the ARP here. So big delay coming up. I'm coming up. So full beat. A little bit of a delay. No bass. Typical outro, right? Groove and then breaking it down to beats. So there we go. Damn. Okay, sweet. What are the takeaways from this? Well, unexpectedly, probably the biggest takeaway is the A section, B section, which we didn't even cover over here. So in HD2, A equals, in this case, the ARP, right? Or / sound design. And then in the B section, handing it off, we've got the B section, we have vocal. So this is just kind of a flip or reverse of what's going on over here. All right. Okay, cool. But yeah, so A section, B section. I mean, again, unexpectedly, this has been a lesson in A section, B sections. In the bass drop, we've got groove here. And then in the B section of the bass drop, starting to introduce some of the hooks. So the come on. I'm sorry, the cash out. And the ARP there. And then we got A section, B section in the break. A section, B section. This was the main thing that I wanted to really break down for everyone, which is like, you know, this is A section here, B section over here with the dramatic edit between the two. So an A-B edit right here. So A section in this case is the vocal. B section here is the ARP and kind of chatting with the vocal. All right, but then over here in the last drop, hook drop 2, or I call it HD2, we've got a flip of that. So we've got the ARP into the vocal, and then the vocal. All right. Now another thing that came up during this is the elevations, and just again progressive elevations. And if I remember correctly, I think their other track too that I broke down recently. I forgot the name of it because I'm really tired. But that one also was a really good example of subtle elevations over time. So that might just be something that they consciously do. This would be consciously done without question. But so elevation here would be the synths right there. And the ride. And this brings up a point. Is like, if you're going to elevate, if you're going to lift the energy in some way, right, you can think of the two high-level things. You have the groove, which is the drums and bass, and you have the hooks, which would be things like vocals and sound design. And so here they have what I call like a kind of a corresponding or a dual kind of elevation. They've got a lift in the drums, and they have a corresponding lift in the hooks. So the lift in the drums or the elevation in the drums is the ride, but then the corresponding lift or elevation in the hooks is the stab. So you've got a lift in the groove and you've got a lift in the hooks or elevation, right? And then over here, we're still getting more lifts, right? So we're lifting with the hooks because we have the horn, but we're also lifting in the groove, or the drums in this case, with the 16th notes, all right? And so there you go. So this is just a very conscious and subtle execution here, but that was definitely consciously done. That was intended. That was strategic right there. Okay. Another thing that was cool was again, I already explained kind of the A section or the A-B edit here, but another thing again with the A-Bs is the clarity of this main break and build. This is a textbook break and build. You've got your strip down into a showcase. In this case, the showcase is going to be for the ARP. You've got a clear turning point where you step up in this case and step up into the building energy. And then you've got the building slow, and then you got the building fast. This is a textbook main break and build. Like you could just clip this out, save this, and use it as an example for any build that you do, you know? And the other cool thing about what we broke down was the ARP. Is just kind of looking at that and the music theory in the beginning and talking about the major note in the context of a minor key. Very cool, very eerie. All right. And then the last thing, zooming out all the way, is again, just do this on your own. But like I said, if you think about it, these channels right here, these three, but really it's just two because it's vocals and sound design. But if you have a chorus vocal, right? So here we have the chorus vocal. If you have a verse and a bridge, and you have an ARP, then here you go. You know, you could tell this story yourself, and you'll have a very high likelihood of telling a track that resonates or creates the right energy movement in the club, right? You don't have to guess with arrangement. You just model what works, right? Because this is a track at the top by great producers, and this track has been tested to death, not just by SIDEPIECE, but whoever and everyone else who plays it, you know, even in the promo stages when they're kind of building the track and testing it out, right? This has been tested to death. And so if you model it, then, you know, you're going to tell a good story, right? And so how do you model it? Well, you just go find the main ingredients. The main ingredients being like a verse, maybe two verses, a bridge, chorus, and then, you know, I'm just kind of using pop terms to describe these different vocal sections, you know. But if you just think about it, you got your kind of title vocal section, you've got kind of a rap 1, you've got a rap 2, and you've got this other kind of rap part that kind of more resembles the chorus, you know. But these kind of like 4 vocal sections, maybe 3 if you just combine these 2, and then you have your art, and that's it. Like, nothing crazy. Like, you know, obviously there's more to the details, but sometimes what producers need help with is just zooming out. All right. So this is a really cool track. Love this track. If you got anything that you want to contribute, any insights that you want to give, drop them down in the comments below. If you got any questions, leave those down in the comments. I will see you in the next one. And don't forget, you can download this. Awesome. I'll see you in the next breakdown. Peace.